This is a really nice little discovery. Just cleaning up the pole, and I've found little number 4. Very shallow, and it was completely munted by rust, so I'll preserve that. So last time I left you guys, it's been quite a few days. I've had other stuff to do. If you don't know, I'm a photographer, so I've had to get heaps of work out. You can check my Instagram link to see what I do for a living. But yeah, so this head, I had the shits with the rust, so I put it in the CLR clear to the rust remover, chemical rust remover. I pulled it out, went to town with the paper, and as you can see, hopefully that focuses nicely, I hit it with those different grades of sandpaper, and then I got the polish out, the old polish on the lynching wheel, that fella there, and polished it up. So it's by no means done. I've got rid of all those little bits of rust in the pits. Another upside is I've got rid of the rust in the eye of the axe. So here we go. So I went to a local supplier, which is called Sawmill Trading Company. This is Australian Ironbark, and Ironbark, in case you don't know, is it's probably the best burning timber in the world. It's just crazy. It's so dense, so heavy, and it's got this beautiful red rich hue. Very sought after. So I've got this blank. It's probably about 1.6 meters long, so I'm going to cut it down to 800. I'll probably get 4 axe handles after it. I can already see some problems. I've got some cracks here, so this end might actually be a throwaway. I'm going to work with the other end. Yeah, that's no good. But I might be able to get some hatchet hand, or maybe one hatchet handle out of here. I'm not too sure. If not, it's not going to go to waste. I'll use it on other projects. From the eye to the bottom of the handle is going to be about 800 mil. So this is pretty much how I start at the moment. She's a pretty raw blank, but you can see I'll put this curve in here, which is something I've got the idea from with this old plum handle. I really like that kick, and the palm swell there is really nice. So it's something and I even like the length. So it's something I'm going to try and emulate here, and I'm going to start at the top. I think this is the most important part to nail. So I'm just working through the files right now. It's coming along. It's a slow process, but you know, I just find it really rewarding. There's nothing robotic about it. It's just me and how I feel about the wood and my skills. So probably turn out like shit. No, they do turn out good. Anyway, I'll keep cracking on. The main thing for me right now is I get these profiles right, which you can kind of see there what's going to happen, and this profile, the vertical profile. So I want this head, once it's mounted here, I just want a beautiful straight line in line with the cutting edge of the axe, all the way down to the palm swell. The handle's coming along really nicely. It still has some refinements, but for now I'm happy with how that's going. The palm swell will probably be the last thing I do. Next is to get rid of some of this meat here. With an axe head, the top of the eye is always bigger than the bottom of the eye, and the reason for that is once you've installed the axe onto the handle, you then drive a wedge in. So what I've done is I've scribed in the eye of the head into the top of the handle, and the way I did that was just simply by lining it all up, making sure that everything's going to be in line and vertical where I want it, and then I just put a pencil in and allowed for some difference. So now I can safely remove a lot of the meat in this end of the handle, which we obviously don't need. So I'm just gonna, instead of doing it by hand, I'm gonna chuck it back on the bandsaw and carefully cut away what I can. But the handle's coming along really nicely. Still needs a bit of thinning down, and there's a couple of slight wobbles in it, but that's going to be easy to sort once I get closer to the end. And like I said, this palm swell is going to be the last thing I do. I want the meat on it at the moment because it's actually a handy thing to chuck into the vise to hold the rest of the axe. I do have vise grips, but yeah, I haven't quite decided on the final shape, but like I said, that's easy to finish off right at the end. So what I've got to do now is cut the kerf, which is, I've marked out here, which is going to be the split in the handle in between the head, which is where I'm going to drive the wedge in. So in order to do that, I need to set a depth. I need to figure out how deep I need to make that kerf cut, and to do that I've got to get the head on. So once the head's seated, it's probably going to be around here. I'll mark the bottom of the head with pencil, and I want the kerf to go about roughly 3/4. So if the head's sitting here, I want it to be about 3/4 of depth. So I'm just going to seat the head now. We're really close with the head. I'm happy with how it's sitting on the handle as well. It's looking pretty good. Oh no, look at that. Look at that. Disaster. So I've chamfered the edge to try and avoid this. The cut of the handle is going to be about here, so all this will be discarded. But not ideal. Look at that bastard. Alright, so I've got the head seated really nicely. Couple of little curls, which I'm not worried about, to be honest. It's sitting really neatly at the bottom. So I'm just going to mark the top and the bottom with pencil and work out how far I'm going to cut the kerf, which should be around there. Around there. So I've just finished marking out my kerf with the pencil. So now I need to take the head off. One other thing that's bothering me at the moment is, and it's always going to happen, and I'm not worried, but just visually at the moment, I've got to clean this end, this sort of intersection of the head and the handle up. And I also think the handle's a bit too thick at the moment, so I'm going to thin it down. It is going to go in my daughter's hands, and she's, you know, she doesn't have man hands, so turn that down. This is still annoying me. It really is. The fact that it's all split, and I could see it happening with that blank. I'm pretty sure I did mention at the start of the video, it was one of my concerns, and the reason why I selected the length of timber I did out of that was to try and get the best out of it, and I think I have. I can definitely save this handle. There will be some little cracks, but I'm confident that it'll still perform well. I'll put a nice chamfer on the end, talk you through that as I go through it. Anyway, time to get the kerf cut in, which I'm about to do now. And so I'm going to remove the head, and then I'm going to start shaping this. Now that I've got my datum point, which is where the head's going to finish, I can really go back and clean all this up. As you can see, there's quite a bit of difference between the bottom eye and the top eye, which is the whole reason why we wedge axes, guys. So I'm going to shape a wedge that's going to be quite a bit thicker at the back end here than it is at the front. So I want to be able to get that wedge driven in, you know, down here. A nice meld. Happy with that. So now I'm going to mark down roughly 3/4, so I know that's my cut line eventually. That's the top of the head, bottom of head. So I'm going to bring my kerf cut down around there. Actually, with this timber I'm going to bring it a little higher, 2/3. So I'm going to widen this cut a little. So you've just seen me grind the cutting edge on this axe on the big linishing belt, and I guess I'd better explain the process before that you see me polish the head. The reason for that is it's really hard to polish the head once it's mounted onto the handle. Easily chuck it in the vise, which I'm about to do, and I'll show you the process there, but I can't work in reverse. I don't want to work and polish with a really sharp cutting edge because it's just dangerous. Although I've done the cutting edge on the linisher, I don't want a full flat, what's called a Scandi grind, just a flat grind. I want it to be curved. Last thing I do before I'm going to put it on the handle is finish off this, and yeah, I'm going to get a mirror finish on this. It's going to be tits. So I'm going to do some sanding work with my sanding pads. Okay, time for some 1200 now. So here I'm just going to start preparing my wedge. Just a really light tap, because I don't want to drive it on too hard at the moment. This is just an indicative for how long a wedge I need. Now if you recall, I brought the kerf down to about here, which is roughly 2/3 of the way. Alright, cut that off and then start shaping this wedge. So I'm getting really close to the end of the axe construction. Here's the wedge. You'll notice it seems a bit funky, but that's all good. I'll take care of that soon. So now now I've got my wedge prepped, I'm going to reseat the head for the final time. And one thing I've done right throughout the process is just really aligning the cutting edge to the handle, and it's looking really schmick. Like, I'm really happy with it. And finally, you don't want too much angle up or down, you just want it sitting nice, and that's sort of one of the things I've done with cutting down the material here, is just to make sure that it's in line and it's going to sit right. To me, that's, you know, that's spot on, that's perfect. So here we go, just going to give that a light tap before I turn it upside down, and everything's looking good. So here we go, the final love taps. Quick look. Oh wow. It's good. It's good. So I don't know if you can see that, but just in here there's just the tiniest amount of little curls. There's very, very small gaps, if there is any at all. So that's a really nice fitment, and you can see how the head's just gone right down now onto the handle, and you can also see the opening, the holes left by the wider eye at the top, and that's how axes are designed. So, you know, when the blacksmith is forging the head, and they use things called drifts, and the top of an axe is always wider for this reason, so we can drive a wedge in, lock it all in, and call it good. So I've just had a quick dry fit, and everything's still looking good. My dimensions here are looking good. Like I said, this is not something I normally do, but that's going to crack off really quickly and easily. So now it's time for some wood glue. I'm just going to pour it in here, let it run down with gravity, and then we'll drive the wedge home. And I forgot to mention too, the wedge I'm using, you guys know that this is Ironbark, Aussie Ironbark. Also using Australian spotted gum for the wedge. And the reason I'm using that instead of Ironbark is I just want a contrast of colours, which is going to be really nice once this is sort of oiled up. Like I said, nothing fancy required, just do what works. So it's pretty thick. So like I said, I've never worked with Ironbark before, and she's a tough timber, that's for sure. And I've got some rags on the ready, just to clean up the mess, although there's no real rush, it's not like we're working with super glue. So just want to do my best to get this nice chemical bond. Like I said guys, I'm no expert at this, I've just learnt from my experiences. Well open to other people's ideas and thoughts. I'm not precious about any of that. I believe, you know, the reason I'm putting this out here is so you guys can learn, and I've loved what other people have put out there, so just continue on that love journey guys. I'm a bit nervous. I always get nervous at this stage. It's crazy. So I'm just going to line it up as best as I can. I'm going to try and clean my hands and guide it back a little. There we go. Alright. There we go, already that little part that I told you would break away is breaking away. I'm hoping it holds in because it's just going to fill that nice little bit, but we're getting a nice little curl here. I'll start giving it more love at the front, and I really, if this wedge splits, I don't care at all actually. I'm actually encouraging it because that way I know that I'm not trying to force my shape into the head. The head's going to tell me what thickness of material it wants wear. So I view that as a really good thing. Alright, that's where we're at. I want to go to some heavy artillery now. I'm actually going to put it on the ground on a bit of timber and finish this off. There we go, it's just starting to split a little. Yeah, that's okay. It's a bit better. Alright. Let's take this puppy home. And the wedge is split nicely. So I'm like I said, I'm not unhappy with that at all. Split. So you can see what's happening here, which is what I really like actually, is that the wedge is split into three. Front section, middle section here, and then the aft section. And they're all going in at different rates, which tells me that each single part is doing its job and sinking in as far as it can, creating a secure bond. Wow, look how much further the front has gone in this section here. That's awesome. Love it. Love it. Oh, this is how I like them. And I'll probably end up cutting this one pretty short. This is how I like them. Let me crank up some ISO so you can see it. Look at that. Wedge smashed. Mushroomed. I have zero problems with that, because I know that wedge is going to do a fantastic job at securing the head on the handle. Looks like a hot mess, right? It looks disgusting right now. That's all good. She'll clean up perfect. And I know that head's going nowhere. Let this dry now, and I'll do some cleaning up. We'll clean up this hot mess. Looks terrible. I'm actually really thrilled with it. I reckon it's how they should look. Anyway, like I said, clean up, let it dry, and come back to it later on. Oh, really happy with how it's all seated down, by the way. It's perfect. create a nice hard edge on a bit of ironbark actually. And by using this and using a sharp edge like this, it's softer than the metal, right? So it's never going to scratch it, but it's going to be harder than the glue. So all I'm doing is just working my way around with this little object, and it just cleans it up really nicely without risk of damaging the head. Look at that, boom. Hands down, this is the favourite part of my build. I've spent hours handcrafting this handle. It's looking beautiful, it's well hung. There's one thing missing. That's a bit of love, a bit of timber treatment. And this is where I'm so excited to see how this ironbark looks. I'm just frothing. I'm going to zoom you in. I'm pumped. Oh my god. Oh my god. Have a go at that. Oh, what? That is ridiculous. Have a go at it. Oh. I don't know if you can see this properly. I'm going to turn down some ISO. Holy shit. Wow. I'm in love. I am in love. Oh my god, the colour in this ironbark is just ridiculous. Holy shit. Wow. Every single stroke is just an absolute pleasure right now. It's crikey. All the hours of work are just paying themselves off in spades right now. This is ridiculous. Oh wow. Sorry, I'm frothing hard because I'm frothing hard. This is my first ironbark experience, and I can tell you right now, I will be back for more. This was a shitty bit of timber too, in terms of the twist and gnarl, and you've seen the cracks I had up here. Just not the ideal bit of timber. But if this is a bad experience, holy heck, take me to church. Take me to Ironbark Church. I'll be back. Wow. Fucking Jesus. Have a go at that. So I've reached a new part of the process for me to go full circle with the sheath, and it's a bit exciting. I've watched a lot of stuff, but it's basically going to be me doing this for the first time. So I've looked at quite a different few sheaths that I already have on hand. This one doesn't have a welt, as in there's no, you can see the difference here, is there's an extra third layer of leather, which this does not have, and it's a really good thing because I'm planning to stitch and also use either rivets of some sort, but basically the cutting edge digs down into the welt instead of, in this case here, these press studs, which is the shit. Not a fan of that at all. Also, one thing I like about this is its simplicity. The stuff I don't like is, you know, it's got this all this glorious headwork here, but it's going to get damaged in transport, right? And I'm not that fond of it. Velcro's kind of cool for a racing axe, but not for bushcrafting. So, and you know, plus there's no decent finish on this. It's just been straight cut. The stitching shit. No welt. It's just, I haven't even dyed the edges, finished or burnished it. So yeah, that's a big no. This one here, you can see they've used rivets, similar to the last one, and they've also stitched it. So this is starting to get better. No edge finish. They have put a welt in, and you can clearly see what I'm talking about there. Is that welt, that third layer, which protects the blade when the axe sits in. Instead of Velcro, I think we've gone a step above here. We've got your standard sort of belt buckle setup. Once again, no burnished edges, just very, very simple, very cheap. And like the other one, which I didn't show you, is one thing that really I'm not a fan of is this. Just glue some leather over it, right? Because it's metal on metal contact. It annoys me. Look at that. So that's a big no, other than the stitching and the welt. Here we arrive at Drifter. So Luke from Drifter, pretty cool dude, good operator. He's finished the edges properly, hasn't dyed them though. Press stud, once again, bit of a fail. So there's a rivet, nice brass rivet there for this clasp, but no protection. And I can show you on this axe, it's already started rubbing through. I like these old school rivets. It's got a welt, it's been finished on this edge, it's been burnished, and it's full coverage. What I mean by that is, so you slot the axe in this way, clip, and in transport, if you're four-wheel driving, you do a lot of corrugations, a lot of rough stuff. I certainly do. Protecting the whole axe head, that versus that, makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to go down this road. It's a nice simple design. It's just basically a wraparound sheath, so you don't have to pull it off or anything like that. It's just, boom, we're there. So I'm going to go down this road. You'll notice that Luke put my initials in this one. I'm going to do the same for Dakota. But basically I'm going to do something like this, but it's going to be stitched as well, like that. I've only got a selection of 4 dyes at the moment. One of them is what's called an antique. So I've marked them down on this natural leather, which is what I'm going to be using. I did that a bit earlier today. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a center line on this bit of paper. I don't have to be too precise here. I'm basically just using this as a guide to keeping, when I flip the axe over on this pattern, I want to make sure that the cutting edge remains centered, but I want to rotate evenly around here, if that makes sense. So boom and boom. Alright, let's give it a crack. Okay, so I've got my basic outline here. I don't know. I need to add a welt. Definitely need to add welt. So I don't think I've got enough here. So it really needs to be, for safety's sake for me, yeah, I'm going to need like 15 mil. That's looking good. Alright. So need to go up higher. Well, there we go, guys. I'm super happy with how this has turned out. Absolutely blown away by the Ironbark. I didn't expect it to have this much red in it, and this is not stained, it's not dyed, this is just linseed oil, as you've seen. Crazy. And this is my first sheath. Oh, I'm pretty happy. There's a lot of stuff I've done wrong with it, and I've definitely learned, but you know what, it's worked out really well. And full circle for me. This is full circle. It's going from a shitty rusty axe head, like something like that, to bringing it back to life and giving it another few hundred years of life. And this one's going out to my daughter Dakota in a couple of days. Put her initials in, and she loves R.M. Williams, so and that's the closest I could find to a stamp. But pretty confident this will serve her well into the future. And she's a bush rat, she's gonna love it. So yeah, happy birthday, Dakota. And for you guys watching, I hope you've learnt something off my experiences. Like, I'm really passionate about it, I love it. And this has just worked out really well. Anyway, I've tried to give you a pretty honest journey, and yeah, I hope you appreciate that. Enjoy. Have your own.